Mike, and you've stacked the last couple of years Kenny Minchie and CJ Carr, and hopefully Deuce Knight signs as your quarterback in the 25 class, and you laid it out. There's no reason to believe that he will not. But you want to continue stacking. So 2026, where are we with those quarterbacks?
Yeah, you mentioned Deuce Knight. So I'll just say this in case people haven't read my articles or watched other videos or heard me talking on the show about Deuce Knight. It's at the point where if he visits Bama or Ole Miss, while committed to Notre Dame, you have reason to be concerned. If he doesn't, there's not. And I get that that's kind of a really basic statement to put out there that kind of applies to every single recruit ever. But it's still the truth. So there was a lot of articles recently about Deuce Knight out there. Big reason was because he was at the Under Armour Atlanta camp. And there was tons of media there. So, I mean, when you're in person, you do the interviews. Deuce doesn't have to pick up the phone to do all those interviews, but in person, you do all the interviews. So that was part of why, it was the last week or the week before, there's just so much media attention on Deuce Knight. But, it's already slowing down this week. And yeah, we'll see. We're in a dead period right now. We'll see when he gets into March. He's going to visit Notre Dame, I think, for like 3 days. He's already got his June official lined up. When I asked him about, excuse me, I didn't ask him. This is a Bama reporter. I asked him about visits. And Deuce said, I'm going to Notre Dame in the spring and in the summer. And, he kind of wanted to put it right there. So, as I don't Deuce Knight. Notre Dame's already getting a head start on 2026, as you have to. And they offered last Wednesday, I believe, Troy Hun from Mission Hills in Southern California, Texas, UCLA, Arizona State, a handful of big-time offers after the 6'3", 195-pounder, and he is visiting campus March 27th to 28th. He's also looking at visiting Penn State and Michigan while he's in the Midwest and would like to visit some schools in SEC country as well to get a look at Texas and an A&M and an LSU. So I think that Notre Dame is in a really good spot with Troy Hun right now. When Gino Guidugli offered him last week, he basically said it gave him goosebumps. And when they got on the phone that he wasn't really thinking too much of it. And then he kind of got the sense like this kid's got 20 offers or something. He knows how these conversations go. He was kind of surprised when the conversation led to an offer, and he was super pumped up. And he was already looking at visiting Notre Dame that March 27th weekend before he got the offer. And then he went ahead and got it, Darren, and locked in that visit date. So Troy Hun coming to campus in about a month. Notre Dame's offered a half dozen quarterbacks or so. I wanted to talk about these two in particular, Troy Hun, because he's visiting, and then Brady Hart is coming to campus in April from Cocoa, Florida, beautiful part of the Sunshine State. And talking to some sources recently, they've offered several. They're in a good spot with a few of these guys, and they've been starting to visit campus here. Brady Schmeigel's a big-time passer from quarterback. He was on campus in January. He's another name to watch. But Brady Hart, hearing really good things. Notre Dame offered him in December. They're getting him on campus in April. And just kind of the mental makeup of this kid, how he's wired. Sources seem to think that Brady Hart very well could be the guy. Miami, North Carolina, Texas A&M. Of course, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Florida State. Not Florida State. Interested, not offered yet. But, a handful of scholarship offers at the Power 5 level. So Brady Hart, again, hearing that he's going to be one to keep an eye on, visiting in April. 6'5", 185 pounds, coming off of a terrific season in Florida, winning a state title for his high school team as a sophomore in very competitive ball, high classification in Florida.
All right, Mike, let's wrap things up by talking about Notre Dame offering an Ohio State commit, which is kind of interesting because I think Ohio State's won free agency during the offseason by the number of players they have added as they try to catch up to Michigan. But Notre Dame taking a look at a very interesting Ohio State prospect.
Here's a really interesting thing about this, Darren. We just talked about Brady Hart from Cocoa in Florida. Well, his top receiver, Javon Boggs, 5'11", 190 pounds, 4-star, committed to Ohio State. Notre Dame has really expanded the 2025 receiver board. It's a position group for the Irish in the cycle that is pretty well developed. They got 2 commits. They seem to be in really good position for Jerome Bettis Jr. And then you've got like Derek Meadows and Raiden Vines Bright, and you got some guys that they're pretty far along in the process with, but they keep adding names to this receiver board. The word aggressive is what I continue to hear with the staff and how they're recruiting in general, but especially at this receiver position. So on Tuesday night, they offer Boggs. If they get Brady Hart, quarterback recruiting goes pretty early, Darren. Notre Dame usually gets their quarterback when he's right going into his junior season or early in his junior season, right? Like Deuce Knight committed to Notre Dame last September. CJ Carr was the summer going into his junior year. Steve Angeli was about the same. Kenny Minchie was, late in his senior season, but, that was the whole Dante Moore cycle. Different story for a different day, of course. So if they were to get someone like Brady Hart committed early, not saying that's going to happen, we're just throwing the situation out there. If they're able to get them in this spring or summer, or even early in the fall, could that like give them a real shot to flip someone like Javon Boggs from Ohio State? I mean, that's his quarterback, and he is open to other schools. I believe he visited Miami in January, and he's looking at official visits. So I know Notre Dame fans, when you have a commit, you're just thinking, oh man, they're just going to flip. Whoa. And they wet themselves about it. But here's a situation where, the Irish could go out and flip someone potentially. I haven't spoken to Boggs yet personally, but Notre Dame's taking a swing at this one. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, Notre Dame hasn't flipped too many prospects, I feel like, in the past year or two. Like I think the 2021 class, they flipped like half of the players in that class, but that's certainly something they do. Like they flipped Armel Mukum from Stanford and Chris Tarek from Wisconsin, a couple guys, in the 2023 class. It's something that they do, but it's not as much as it's been in the past. I don't know. Maybe the class of 2025 they'll get one or two.
Okay, something to watch. Very good. All right, Mike, give us some details on, I wouldn't say the eve of spring practice, but close enough. What do we have going on at blueandgold.com?
Yeah, I mean, tons of recruiting coverage. Lots of prospects will be visiting campus. Of course, myself and Kyle Kelly will have you guys covered with all of that news, as well as the instant observations, the news coming out of practice. I was pretty pleased to see Notre Dame's spring schedule for practices and the amount of media availability. I think it's kind of been on par with what they've been doing under Marcus Freeman, which I've been fine with. So some really good coverage there. And our offer for both of our audiences, Darren, is using the promo code UND1 will get you $1 for 2 months. So just $1 for your first 2 months using the promo code UND1. So please check that out at blueandgold.com.